check, check. 3. All right. So yeah, sorry about the chaos earlier. It's super insane here. It's basically a construction site in my house, but we're getting there. Shit's getting all fixed up and built up, and it's gonna be a real recording studio. All right, so it's time for some more track feedback. I'm gonna try and get to as many as I can. Apologies for the wait. I'm almost caught up though. I'm only a week late now, so it's not as bad as it was. And I did a weekly download today, which I feel pretty good about. Although it was pretty loud during the whole process. There was like saws and hammering and shit. It was pretty annoying. What are you gonna do though? You know, that's life. All right, so the next one, Snappy Home Fry, aka Synapse, very talented producer. It's actually also a Machine user, and will likely be teaching Machine at the dojo in a bit. Just doing some prep, but yeah, Machine is a hell of an app. I love it. So it'll be good to have someone who's teaching Machine. Okay, so this is Snappy Home Fry with good vibrations. Oh yeah, and then I think I'm gonna try and turn the mic down a little bit here. Window, back, yeah, there we go. Okay, hopefully this still works when I do that. Hello, check, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. How's the audio? Is the audio okay? Okay, let's see the sat camera or... Okay, yeah, it's the right camera. All right. Okay, cool. So let's get to it. Here we go.
Come on with a good vibration. Come on with a good vibration. Come on with a good vibration. Whether you from country or you come from town, everybody feel good like the way they should. When we touch a stage, gonna rock the crowd. Yeah, we can't forget the party popping out. If you wanna move your body, better drop it down. House your David gang, come we show you up. So do it how you want. Sitting in the railway station with a guitar in my hand, coming with a good vibration. To spread across the land, coming with a good vibration. Coming with a good vibration. Come on with a good vibration. I will tell you who I am. Come on with a good vibration.
was pretty good. That was pretty good. Okay, so I'll read you what I wrote for him. Okay. Nearly done. Okay. Almost there, and then I'll read you my feedback. Okay, so my comments to him overall was a very nice track, but I would say the bass wobs and chord wobs are sounding kind of poorly formed and layered when they're all on top of each other like that. Either make them exactly the same or completely different, but not halfway. Actually, I'm going to say if you must have two at once, either make them exactly the same or completely different. Or else completely different. Nothing in between. Okay, so I was going to say the bass wobs and chord wobs are sounding kind of poorly formed and layered when they're on top of each other like that. If you must have two at once, either make them exactly the same or else completely different. Nothing in between. The minimal section at the end with distorted faraway bass is nice. That section really works. The rest is a lot of melodic clutter, and the drums are too floppy to bring the rest of the groove together. Electronic music sounds best when there's much less going on at once. The sounds are meant to be all clear and spacious. Having so much going on at once doesn't give the sounds room to breathe. The supplemental break pieces would sound way better if they were a lot shorter, more chopped sounding, then get rid of some lows and highs and compress the fuck out of them, but have them all quiet in the mix. Then your arrangement suffers from the soupy thing during most of the track. You're doing the same problem, I say, yeah, the same problematic. You're doing the same, you're reiterating the same arrangement problems reiterating the same arrangement problems but with more EDM sounds. Don't worry about trying to make ripping bass wobs, it's not you really. Work on making the percussion and subs really drive the track, and then keep the rest of the sounds super sparse and liquidy and sexy. You could also stand to process those vocals a bit more, trick them about a bit. They still sound a bit trite. They need a more special something. Little glitchy dub bits and LFO vibratos and reverses and stuff will improve them a lot. Overall, nice work, just pare it down a lot. Get the main drums hitting really hard, have only high energy supplemental drums, and make sure you have one main thing at a time and the rest playing backup. Right now you have too many main things at once. Alright, so Keenan, because you've been so excited to get this done, I will check out your track feedback now. And yeah, hopefully you're stoked. No, Kaya, the deadline for the mixtape is on the 31st, but I'm kind of expecting that some people are going to be a little late, so I'm not like totally holding my breath, you know?
When I stepped into the fire, my own people thought I was mad. But when the fire burnt out, I was unhurt. The mother of dragons. Fire and blood.
No, not the wet one. Don't ever push the wet one. Say, nobody must know about this. I'll have to hide it someplace.
I'm no ordinary woman. My dreams come true.
Lucy.
He was no dragon. Fire cannot kill a dragon.
I will answer injustice with justice.
I like that there's police cars in Dragon World.
When the fire burnt out, I was unhurt. The mother of dragons.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, so that you made a track. Awesome, cool. I dig it. All right, so there's a lot of kind of pretty fundamental problems with this track that we should probably address. So, I love that you use some of the performance sound packs from the library. But the thing to understand about those performance sound packs, especially the Walk the Plank one, is the pieces inside that drum rack, those are like pieces of a mastered song, right? That sound pack is meant for finger drumming live and doing like a drum routine too. So it's already kind of mastered to be at 0 dB and like, you know, it's already mixed. There's no headroom for really too much additional layering that you can do on a finished mastered track. So those sound packs, they're not really drum kits. They're more for like actually like playing a live performance, right? So it's kind of like, I think, you know, you're probably a lot better off, even though it might seem like more work, it's gonna sound a lot better to make your own drum kit for all of the chops and stuff to go over top of. Then as far as the sample, I mean, I think there's probably enough illegal sampling going on that it might set up some algorithms, because the samples from Game of Thrones are really long and there's not that much done to them. So it might be enough to set off the copyright protection algorithms and get the mixtape pulled, I'm afraid. So that's another kind of pretty big problem. And then in general, like when you're making these tracks should really be able to stand alone outside of the concept of it being like a mixtape. So it would be pretty difficult to dance to this track, or really kind of like even listening to it, there's not really a groove, you know? It's more of like an audio collage than it is a song. And I like audio collage. Like, there's a lot of really cool audio collage artists. I listen to like Cassette Boy and Negative Land and, you know, a lot of different artists. But this is kind of like, you know, a mixtape is, you know, we're looking for like short songs really for the mixtape. So if you could take like for example, like just figure out what your main kind of groove is, right? And you did this really cool thing at the end where you had this looped kind of piece of the track where it has a pretty cool groove. Like, let's check it out. So that bit, if you got some of your own drums and you put them behind those horns, like that horn riff is pretty sick, right? They're like bum 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 bum, like that'll sound really good just repeated, right? But you never really repeat that song. You have this kind of cool hook in your track, but it just sort of happens right at the end, right? So if you were to take a drum kit that is not like for performance, but is actually like drums, you know, perhaps the Infinite Drum Rack, or one of the other things from the library, you can make like a cool beat that goes with that loop, right? So your track, you could have it start off far away where it's like bum 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 bum, you know, and then you'd have your beat like come in under that loop. And then if you come up with a few other sections where you have your vocal sample come in and, you know, maybe some other chops, and then you go back to that main, like, bum, 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 bum. That could be like your main kind of hook, your main, like, thing that the track does. And if you can make that section sound sick, and then go out of that into something else, back into the hook, into something else, back into the hook, then it's going to really make a lot more sense as a song. A chop is like a small piece of a sample, like a longer sample, and you put it on the drum rack or whatever. But you can also make, you know, you like, it just refers to a clip, you know, a clip or a piece of a sample in a drum rack. But you can make a groove with a bunch of little like chops out of that sample, like little tiny pieces of the sample. And you know, so you could have one section where it's got that cool loop, like ba ba bum bum ba ba, you know, get some drums under that. And then if you have another section where it's like you know, or some other riff that's made out of chopping up the sample, and then just keep returning back to that main kind of core essence. Yeah, like the face of the song, or the ba ba bum bum ba, like that. That's a cool piece of the sample that you found from Game of Thrones, and it's very like, you know, it has a lot of identity to it, right? So you'd want to keep returning to that main identity of the song, go away for a bit, come back to the main identity of the song, go away for a bit, and then it's going to make a lot more sense as a song. Okay? So hopefully that helps. I think it's really it's super cool that you know, no one else has done Game of Thrones yet, I don't think. So yeah, if you make like a, you know, a hook in another section, you know, you can have something that sounds more like a song and could maybe be on the mixtape. All right, thanks, Keenan, and I appreciate how enthusiastic you are on the live streams and everything. It's always good to see you on the live streams. Okay, so that is yours, and I'm gonna reply, yeah, like that. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the other track feedback form, because I think this is where the oldest ones are. Yeah, January 21st. That's a while. All right, so we got Robert Hewitt. And oh yeah, I'm sorry about the mic volume. I can't adjust the mic volume. Here, I'll maybe put this a little closer to me. Hopefully that'll help. But I can't really adjust the mic volume until I get my streaming stuff. I have like a special sound card and everything. And then I got this new video card that I'm gonna use for streaming. That's pretty exciting. But I need Jacob to arrive on Wednesday with all my New York stuff. But when he gets here with the New York stuff, I'm gonna set that up. Well, that was a jaunty little number. I like that. Good job, Treefort. Okay, so I'm just going to give him his prescription here. Go back to the library and go to the Everything Organized post. Cool. Alright, so I'm going to say details. He needs to get details. Yeah, this one on detail. He needs to get that. Also the one on scratching. Scratch racks. Yeah, those will help. You could also probably use the pad gate. The pad gate is a really cool trick for adding details. If you're in the club and you want to check out details, check that shit out. It's really cool. Probably some of the reverb tricks as well. Cool. Alright, so my feedback for Robert was the flute is super sick, but that wobbly pad that comes in doesn't really go with it. When the drop groove comes in, it's awesome. I love that. Those synths coming in over top are a bit of out of place seeming when they first come in. I love how minimal and dubby this is. Very moody. The saw bass needs a dip in the low mids around 250 or so, and then maybe some saturation to bring out the highs. The bit where it goes to only shaker then drops, don't do the double drum note there. Have one note for the drop. It'll sound better. This is a really good vibe. When the flute comes in, those chops feel a little random. Maybe have them be more decisive. Those wobbly chords are back in, and they're still sounding funny later in the song. I want to hear you fuck the sounds up a bit more with some pitch bends and formant shifting and other cool sound design stuff. More details on the main strong melodies sounds like the flute will sound great. And then I give him some things on detail and stuff. Okay, Kaya, if you're still here, it is your turn. Oops, what did I do that for? Let's get that copy. And then, let's go over here. Paste. Copy and paste to fundamental skills of music production. Alright, Obadiah. Or is it Obadiah or Obadiah? I can't tell. Okay, alright. Hey, what's up, Sean? This is pretty cool. I really like this. This is a big improvement. I'm really impressed. cool. You did great. Okay, wow, good job. Big improvements. Big improvements, Kaya. Very, very nice work. Very nice work. Okay, so my feedback is I love it. And then the drop has way less sub bass than the section that comes before. You know, big old sine wave down the bottom below 80 hertz. Really cool vibe though, lots of space and super dope sounds. You just need that bass. You need bass. So there's a bunch of subs in the library. In the weekly download, there's the Moog subs and the unusual subs, and then you need to do the 3 extremes test and just listen to all the way at the bottom, like low pass the whole fucking track and listen to just the way the sub and the kick fit together. But you need to have like that, like for that style of music, you need to have that like sub bass, just like boom, like maximum fucking sub bass. And then all your bass wobs and shit all sound great. They're really cool sounds. Yeah, really good work. Just get some subs on your next track. I'd probably even redo that track and just add a layer of subs under it. But yeah, you did great. You did great, Kaya. You should be stoked. All right, so Sean, Synergy. I'm refreshing here to and then Wes. Okay, cool. I think Sean was first. So I'm going to go to okay, go to where is the Synergy post? Yeah, I refreshed the screen for you. I love how I'm getting it from all angles here. Okay, cool. Here is a new one. Okay, EP stuff. Okay, let's do the mixtape one first, okay? Alright, loading up the mixtape beat.
Hello? Cool. I hope it's a naked dude.
First of all, smoking loud. First of all,
Sounds like a robot.
the music is a little loud. Are you afraid of it? What if you had robot ears? Robot ears.
I wouldn't trip my antlers.
The music is a little loud. Are you afraid of it? No, I just don't like hearing that. What if you had robot ears?
Sounds like a robot. He's a fucking psycho.
Robot ears. Robot ears.
Okay, cool. Big improvements over last time. The groove of it makes a lot more sense and everything, but you got way too much just like random talking over the shit. Like, I don't know what that sample is. Like, where's the bong or something? I don't know what that fucking sample's saying. It doesn't need to be there. It's just in the way. It's just cluttering up your groove. And then when you're delivering the main sample where it's like, you know, is the music too loud? You know, you don't like techno, etc. You need to ditch all the drums and shit in there. Just have it be like just that sample and maybe like a quiet Reese or something in the background. Have the music stop, have the sample play, and be like, hey, is the music too loud? No, I just don't like techno. Long pause. You would if you had robot ears. Drop. You know? And then don't have just those like random slices of movie sample in there. They're not making your track cooler. They're just in the way. Also, you have this gated kind of synth chord that's going like dook, 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 dook. That's just making your shit sound far away and like all groovy, and like you're supposed to be like flowing in this like puddly like groove, but the rest of your groove's all in your face and crazy, right? So like that gated synth is really mellow, you know, it's like a really like chilled out synth. So why are you putting this like chilled out sound in the spots that are supposed to be all crazy? Right? So maybe just like strip your drums way back, use that chill out synth for the intro, and then full stop with the drums. Just have like a long note of quiet sub, and the vocal just all by itself, just the sample, just like, is the music too loud? I just don't like techno. You would if you had robot ears. And then turn around, do the drop, and then when during the drop, like just don't have like, listen to all this. This is like random ass. Like it's really cluttered in there, you know. Just have like a banging beat with that gated synth, no chops to the sample, and then just impact. Sample happens with a build up. You would if you had robot ears. Boom, drop. You know, it'll be way better than having it be like kind of a mess like this, right? But your synth work is a lot nicer. I feel like the pattern with the kicks, you should make a 4-bar pattern instead of a 2-bar pattern. And on the 4th bar, you should have some fills. Your drum beat doesn't really have some fills. Like have it flip backwards for a bar. Have it be like bit reduction for a bar or something on the 4th bar every now and then. Because that drum beat, it's pretty much like super steady the whole way. You know, you need to be like a bit more lyrical and a bit more phrase oriented with your drums, and then a bit more repetitive with your synths. So you've got like the synths are a little bit more, they're a little bit more easy to follow now, which is nice. The mix on them's a bit better too. I don't know exactly what you did, but you definitely made some steps in the right direction. But yeah, just you know, get rid of those, like those vocal chops should just be in and out, you know, no like constant riffs over top of your drop. Because when you have constant riffs over top of a drop that's like, here's a sound, here's a sound, here's a sound, it completely ruins the checkerboarding effect. Okay? So yeah, so that's my feedback on that. Alright, let's listen to these other two. Yeah, it's so fucking awesome when people are actually there and I can just give the feedback verbally. It's so much faster. Okay, so here, let's get this one. Yeah, this is great. We're gonna get this done, dog. Yeah, I have this like guilt from not doing all my track feedback. I feel fucking terrible, but I've been chipping away at it like a couple hours each day. But yeah, I think we're gonna have to get some more people doing track feedback. I think I'm gonna try and get Evan to do more. He's pretty good at it. Oh, there we go. That track, there's a lot about that track that's really good. There's definitely like a lot of the details are really nice. Some of the sounds are really nice, but you're I think perhaps using too much OTT compression or something, because all of your synths are kind of going a bit flat, like they sound a bit papery. But yeah, they have like, there's some kind of process that you're running on all your synths together that's making them sound a little bit like overdriven and kind of flat, and they kind of like, the richness of the tone of the synths is getting lost. They're sounding a bit boxy, right? Because the thing is, like, when you make a ripping dubstep track like that, like, you want your synths to sound like larger than life and like, you know, super three-dimensional and fucking crazy and loud, right? But the problem is, a good part of what makes a sound big is the kind of like expansiveness in the stereo spectrum, right? Like in the left to right, like the width in the stereo. And when you're like the levels of the side and the mid signal, right? There's like a kind of integrity between the mid and the side signal that gets kind of wrecked when you compress things too much, right? Because basically OTT is applying a very extreme compression to both of them based only on the loud part of the sound. So all the stuff at the edges is getting kind of like, it's like less different than the stuff down the middle, if that makes any sense. You know, like when you're listening to a track and the kick is compressing the whole track, you're having that happen to the edges of your stereo field, right? So the processing is making everything kind of sound like it's in a box and like it's small, right? And although it's loud because of the compression and everything, it's sounding a bit small because of the way that the stereo information is being processed, right? So it's kind of like ruining the richness and the expansiveness of the tone of your synths in the process of getting them loud. They also don't really need to be that loud. Like they're especially in the low mids, the one that you have on the drop, the low mids are really kind of unflattering, you know, like that one needs a pretty big dip in the low mids. But it's also like, I don't know, the whole thing, like if you're gonna go that loud and you're gonna try and like cross the 6 dB quieter than, like, I always try to say, you know, everything should be at least 6 dB quieter than the drums, but inevitably you end up like bringing some stuff up more than that. Like, let's say you want to push your sub up to a 4 dB quieter than the kick, right? You have to apply some pretty serious side chaining to it so that it never happens at the same time as your kick. Well, when you're trying to get synths that loud and you're trying to compress them that much and get them like super in your face like that, you got to basically start treating the mids and the highs like you would with the sub, because when your synth comes in that loud, like, even though you probably have your sub side chained, all of your synths are making your drums like not punch through the mix enough because you haven't side chained the mids and the highs, right? So side chain fucking just everything to the kick and to the snare, and make that side chain like a really deep side chain, like fucking get them out of the way. And if you can, use MIDI notes to like just make it so that there's not MIDI notes on the kick and snare. That's a really good, it's kind of like just like a sequencing side chain really, where you just don't put MIDI notes on the actual kick and the snare. But right now your synths are so loud and distorted that they're making the drums not punch through the mix nearly the way that they want to. And you know, by distorting them and making them that loud, you're also losing the stereo image. Another problem that you're having here is that there's all these parts that are like your synths are doing the checkerboard thing, where it's like, here's one loud synth, here's another loud synth, here's one loud synth, here's another loud synth. But the problem is there's so many kind of constant, not repeating parts in the background, like your drums, and then there's like, you know, there's like chord skank and all this other stuff that's just kind of going steady over top of the checkerboard. That kind of stuff really ruins the checkerboard effect. Like, it's got to be kick, one loud thing, snare, one loud thing, kick, one loud thing, snare, one loud thing, you know? Otherwise, those constant parts, they ruin the checkerboarding effect, and they make it so that you know, the sounds that you want to be these just like loud, crushing sounds they have too much competition to really punch through. Okay. So that's my feedback on that one. Definitely some good work done there, but you're gonna really need to take away all the constant parts and then really just sequence it a bit more. You know, your snare and your kick are pretty much the exact same snare and the exact same kick the whole time, and it gets boring, and B, you can't really hear them because of all the other sounds on top of them. Okay, so really focus on preserving, like when you're compressing things and stuff, focus on preserving the edges. And if you can get a mid-side compressor or make a mid-side compressor rack, you could probably make like a mid-side version of OTT. That would be useful. But yeah. Kevin, we've been going about 50 minutes. We haven't got your track yet. Still doing Sean. Okay, so here's another track from Sean. But yeah, you didn't miss your track, bro. Don't worry. Very good. Very good work. Very good work, Sean. Okay, this track, groove-wise and like the chords and the melodies and everything, really fucking strong, man. Really, really strong. This track, like the whole composition of it, the flow of it and everything is really great. The way you've used the vocal is really great. It's not too cluttered. You know, there's still some cluttered spots, but it's not too cluttered. And you know, most of the sound design is pretty cool. So as far as what could be improved in this track, I really feel like where you've kind of taken us with these really vintage keys and shit is a great place. Like, it's a really good vibe, and the contrast between that and the more aggressive synth section is really nice. Like, that's great work. But I would say that the drums are, you know, probably the biggest weakness of this track. Like, I mean, there's some mixed stuff, we're going to get into it later, but in terms of the sound design, the drums are probably the biggest weakness. Now, the drums, they really, well, number one, your hi-hats are way too fucking loud, like way too loud with the hi-hats. And there's a lot of other sounds that are just far too loud, and your synths are not loud enough and don't have enough stereo width. But we'll get into that later. But for the drums, I feel like you know, if you had a more vintage drum feel, this track would really benefit. Like, right now your drums feel like really sharp, really digital, really like they're like right out of the sample archive. Whereas if you know, think about the drum beat for like Closer by Nine Inch Nails, you know, like just super like trashy electro, fucking like really saturated, like old cheap sounding fucking lo-fi analog drum machine. That shit is gonna sound great with those chords. Like, it's really gonna fit. And then it's gonna make it so that, you know, you have this like lo-fi deep analog vibe for the chords section, and then when it flips and all the sound design comes in, it gets all crazy. That changed the whole drum kit. Like, changed it, and that's where you get like you know, that's where you get the, you know, everything opens up, the stereo image opens up, and everything is really like, whoa, this is a very loud, like modern, well-produced track, right? But if you get just like a super old school kind of like drum machine. Also, when you're making beats like an electro beat where it's like kick and then clap and kick together, put the clap a little early. Like, use the track offset in Ableton to set the clap back like maybe 10 milliseconds, and then it's like clap kick. So it's like clack. It sounds really fucking just like loose and electro-y and just like right in the pocket, you know. So get an old school drum machine and do kick, and then have the clap be slightly early, and then clap kick like that, and then just have like a really compressed, saturated fucking old school drum machine with tons of sidechain, like so much sidechain. Okay, so that's really gonna make your intro and outro and your breakdown in the middle sound way better. Okay, now in terms of the track, like, I get where you're going with this, I really do, and I think I get the vision, man. I'm there with you. I think this track could be fucking great, and I think it could be something that we put out on the label. But the problem is, again, with your stereo image and your leveling. Okay, so your hi-hats are way too loud, and there's like in the second half, for example, there's this supplemental part that's like mirror 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 on every drum beat, and it's louder than your bass. Like, check it out. Like, your hi-hats and that those sounds are louder. They're coming off as louder to me than your main like ripping synth sounds. And those main ripping synth sounds, you need those things to tear the fucking air apart. You know, you need those things to be loud. You need them wide. You need them like super crazy, right? So look up some stereo widening sound design tips. I'll do a weekly download about it probably later this week. But one thing that you can do that is really cool is make very pronounced differences between what's happening in the left speaker and the right speaker. So make two different versions of your patch. Like, split your patch into mono and make one version for the left speaker with, like, you know, a bunch of parameters different, and another version for the right speaker with a bunch of parameters different. Then you'll get something that's mono compatible that sounds like 100% wide, but it sounds unified, right? So that's a really, really good trick for getting that like super exaggerated kind of dubsteppy, moombacore, like aggressive bass, okay, or the aggressive mid-range synth sounds. But really split those sounds apart. Don't be afraid to have a layer that's moving in some of the short sounds, like have one that's like nyomp, nyomp, like going left to right and having some movement in the sounds. Get the levels way up on those synth sounds. Turn your hi-hats down. Tighten up your kick. Your kick is too long, and your sub bass is not like driving enough on top of that kick. And then for God's sake, sidechain like your life depends on it. Like just so much sidechain in the mids, in the highs, everywhere. Like like just sidechain the Christ out of everything. And then really exaggerate the stereo width and bring the level up. Because like in this outro, there's this vocal chop, and it has this crazy stereo image and tons of presence. Like check that out.
Keep pushing on.
Like those little chops on the vocal sound fucking great. That sounds like dollar bills falling from the sky. Like it just sounds great. There's also this one like yup 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 synth noise that is actually where you want it in the level and the stereo. That one. But that yup 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 yup. That sound is fantastic. That's where you need all the rest of your sounds to be. You need them to be like sitting outside and around the drums. So have your drums be like mono. Tighten up the transients. There's a couple little like double flams where I think like maybe one of your samples has a little bit of silence at the beginning or something, where you can hear 2 hits at once in a like not intentional sounding way. So get those tightened up. So the transients are all nice and sharp, and then really like widen those synths, sidechain the fuck out of them so that your drums punch through in the highs, the mids, everywhere, but really exaggerate the stereo image on those synths. Really exaggerate everything. Like you want to have them be like super full. And then when you're making these stereo processing things, if you must use that much OTT, maybe if you make a wet dry OTT where you turn the amount up and it does if you make a mid side OTT so that you compress the mid and the side separate, it'll preserve your stereo image more. But yeah, really good work overall, man. That track is definitely something that could come out on the label. I have some announcements, like there's a February album writing month announcement coming, and then I also going to be doing another compilation. So that's a pretty strong candidate for the compilation, man. That's really good. If you finish that one up, that one could totally be on the compilation and then later on an EP. But yeah, nice work. Overall, man, really fucking great. Okay, new Spiderhound. I was gonna take a break, but Sean, if you're online, actually he won't be online. It's nighttime. That's a really, really good trick. Yeah, it's nighttime. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, Ancient Diamonds, it's not just a stream. I'm using a shitty mic because my nice mics are not here yet. Okay, alright, I'm going to take a break, guys. I will be back probably either tonight or tomorrow to do some more. Alright, lots of love. Thanks for watching, everybody. Shouts out to everyone who supports what I'm doing in the dojo. When the new studio is built, you're going to see. It's going to be fucking amazing.